In this video, we will be looking at one of the most thought-provoking arguments that points to the existence of God. This is an easy argument to memorize, so I would suggest that the next time somebody asks you about the evidence for God, you may want to start with this argument. The argument has two parts, with the first part taking the form of a syllogism that goes like this. Premise 1. If something began to exist, then it had a cause for its existence. Premise 2. Physical reality is something that began to exist. Conclusion. Therefore, physical reality had a cause for its existence. What is interesting about the first part of this argument is that it is not a probabilistic argument. Because if both premises are true, then the conclusion logically and necessarily follows, whether somebody wants it to or not. The first premise is almost self-evident, because if anything begins to exist, it must have a cause for its existence. This principle aligns with our everyday experiences and our scientific understanding of reality. We don't observe things simply popping into existence without a cause. In fact, causality is a foundational concept in both philosophy and science. Consider everyday examples. A car is produced in a factory. A painting is created by an artist, and a book is written by an author. In each case, there is a cause that explains the existence of the car, the painting, and the book. The law of causality is so ingrained in our understanding of the world that to deny it would undermine the very fabric of rational thought and scientific inquiry. In a prior video, we talked about how some people think that physical reality, or more specifically the universe in that example, got here by chance. According to some, they believe that the universe simply came into existence even though nothing existed before it. However, if someone thinks that there was nothing, and then physical reality got here by chance, then they are confused, because to have chance, there also must be variables, and vice versa. Chance presupposes the existence of variables, and a framework with which these variables can interact. If absolutely nothing existed, then there would be no variables, and thus no chance of the universe coming into existence from nothing. Therefore, if nothing existed, that means there were no variables, and as a consequence of there being no variables, there would be no chance. Yet, even if chance somehow did exist, the probability of physical reality coming into existence without a cause from absolute nothingness would be zero. As a reminder, premise 1 of this argument goes like this. If something began to exist, then it had a cause for its existence. The main point of premise 1 is to establish that things do not come into existence without a cause, especially if nothing existed yet, because after all, out of nothing, nothing comes. Next, we will move on to defend premise 2 of the argument, because someone might assume that physical reality has always existed. That assertion would eliminate the need for physical reality to have a cause for its beginning, because if physical reality has always been here, it wouldn't have a beginning, and therefore it would not require a cause. The problem with this assumption is that both science and philosophy strongly refute this thinking. If physical reality always existed, then we would need to throw out the second law of thermodynamics, which states that a closed system, such as physical reality, will run out of usable energy by reaching a state of equilibrium. That means if physical reality is infinitely old, because it has always existed, then we should have run out of usable energy by now, and we should find ourselves in an environment that is at equilibrium. But that is not what we find. Therefore, according to science, because the second law of thermodynamics does hold, we do still have usable energy, and we are not in a state of cosmic equilibrium, then we can conclude that physical reality is not past eternal. Likewise, philosophy tells us that time, which contains physical events, cannot be past eternal, because if there were an infinite number of days before today, then today would have never arrived. To put this philosophical point into a thought experiment, imagine that you tried to count down from infinity to 0. In this thought experiment, 0 represents today, while all the positive numbers represent the infinite amount of days that occurred before today arrived. Essentially, you will never reach 0 because there will always be an infinite amount of days or numbers to count down before you reach today. Therefore, since today has arrived, we can conclude that there has not been an infinite number of days before today, which gives us strong philosophical evidence for our second premise. In the end, we can rationally say that both science and philosophy concur with our premises. If the premises are true, then things do not come out of nothing without a cause, and physical reality has a beginning. As a reminder, the first part of this argument goes like this. Premise 1. If something began to exist, then it had a cause for its existence. Premise 2. Physical reality is something that began to exist. Conclusion, therefore, physical reality had a cause for its existence. Part 1 of this argument, which we just discussed, logically validates that physical reality came into existence and thus needs a cause for its existence. Although, what does this argument have to do with the existence of God? After establishing that physical reality has a cause for its existence, the next step is to consider what could be the cause of physical reality. The second part of this argument focuses on the characteristics, attributes, or properties that this cause possesses to be able to cause physical reality. As an example, to bring an entire universe into existence requires immense power. The sheer magnitude of the universe, with its vast quantities of matter and energy, implies a cause of great power. On the other hand, the complexity and order of the universe suggest an intelligent cause capable of creating intricate systems and life. The fine-tuning of the constants of nature for the existence of complex biological organisms points to an intelligent designer. We should also keep in mind that the cause of physical reality cannot itself be composed of physical reality. Therefore, this cause must be spaceless, timeless, and immaterial. When we add all of these attributes together, we get a cause of physical reality that is spaceless, timeless, immaterial, immensely powerful, and extremely intelligent, which are the exact attributes of God. Lastly, let us dispel some common objections. Objection 1. Physical reality caused itself. This objection fails because physical reality would need to exist in order to create itself, which is metaphysically impossible and logically absurd. Objection 2. If everything has a cause, then what caused God? This fails because premise 1 states that only something that begins to exist has a cause. So if God is eternal, then he does not have a beginning. Some cynics find it difficult to believe that God is eternal, but this is a double standard, because if the universe was eternal, they may not have a problem believing that because it fits their own dogma. Objection 3. The multiverse hypothesis. This objection asserts that there is a multiverse generator that cannot be tested for or observed, but somehow we know that it creates universes. However, this would just lead us to ask what caused the multiverse generator, which also cannot be eternal because we do not have any evidence of anything physical being eternal. Yet we do have great evidence against something physical being eternal from both science and philosophy, which we discussed earlier. Therefore, appealing to physical strata, such as a multiverse generator, as the solution for how physical strata came to be does not solve the problem. But instead, this response gives a false circular reason that does not answer the question of what caused physical strata to exist in the first place. By thoroughly examining the premises and addressing common objections, we see that the argument stands on solid ground. If you can remember that existence does not come from non-existence, and that we have evidence from both science and philosophy regarding how physical strata cannot be eternal, then this argument challenges us to think deeply about the nature of existence and the ultimate cause of reality. With that being said, I will see you in the next one.